to First Things First. Jenna Wolfe. Oh, I'm excited this morning. Jenna Wolfe, Nick Wright, Brandon Marshall, Kevin Wildes. We finally have a weekend of football to discuss, and what a weekend it was. Let's get right into it. We are going to start with the most hyped season opener in years. I mean, how could it not be? That's what happens when you got a matchup of 40-year-old starting quarterbacks of the two leading passers in NFL history, and perhaps we all expect a little too much out of this game. That's what I always say about hype, you guys. Brady came out a little rusty, throwing 2 picks, including a costly pick 6. That Janoris Jenkins ran back. Brady would finish 23 of 36, 239 passing yards, 3 scores, 2 passing, 1 rushing, and those 2 picks. Wasn't much better for Breeze either. Just 160 yards passing and 2 scores. But Breeze got something that Brady didn't, and that was a win. Bucs are 0-1 out of the gate. Here is Tom Brady after an up-and-down debut.
Yeah, it was just, it felt like a scrimmage out there. But, obviously it counts. And I think we're all disappointed it didn't go our way. But the only people that can do something about it are the guys in the room. And we got to look at each other in the eye and all work harder, put more urgency on the things we have to do, and, get back to work and do a better job. When you don't play your best and you play good teams, you obviously get beat. And we played far from our best. So 3 turnovers, they didn't have any. We had penalties, they didn't have many. We didn't have great field position, they had great field position. It's just all those things add up, and we got to do a much better job in every area.
All right, Brandon, it might be a little early, but is it too early now to be worried about Tom Brady and the Bucs at this point?
Absolutely. It's only week 1, Jenna. Coach Mangini talked about it last week on our show Friday. He talked about continuity versus a lot of change. And we saw that show up play after play this past week, right? So when you look at Tom Brady and Mike Evans, that's the first thing I was looking at. There was a big interception, and a lot of people are probably blaming Tom Brady. Oh, is he too old? Physically, does he still have it? But when you look at it, there's too high safety. Mike Evans is in a slot. Mike Evans is taught to get to 12 yards when you see this and you have a seam route and take the middle of the field. He's 6'5", 220 pounds. Tom Brady is expecting Mike Evans to run through the middle of the field. Mike Evans got to 12 yards and he stopped. He put Tom Brady in a bad spot. The second thing I looked at was this offensive line. We talked about the rookie right tackle, but the left tackle was bad. He was more than bad. He was really, really bad. The right tackle, he looked like a rookie at times. And then the last thing that jumped out was the defense. The defense has to help out this offense and Tom Brady if they want to win ball games, which is an easy fix because Coach Todd Bowles, defensive coordinator, did a phenomenal job of calling this game. What he did was genius. He mixed it up on the back end. He sent pressure at times. He held back at times. But what did they do wrong and what do they have to fix and fix fast is the explosive plays. Plays past 15 yards. If they can do that, this defense can be a really, really special defense. So I think that Tom Brady's going to be fine. I think the Bucs are going to be fine. But when you look at those 3 things, they have to fix it. The biggest glaring issue, Nick, it really is that offensive line.
Oh, okay. I thought the quarterback stunk. I mean, I can't believe it. Brandon, you have been so great. And I'm so glad this first month has gone as well as it has. You've been fantastic. I know we'll talk hoops later. You might have called the Nuggets-Clippers series. But it took, for those keeping score at home, it took officially 2 minutes and 12 seconds until all of a sudden we were to the point of the season where Tom Brady doesn't have enough help. Where the interceptions aren't on him. Of course they're not on him. They're always on the receiver. Whether it's N'Keal Harry, Mohamed Sanu, or Julian Edelman, or Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, and Tom Brady's odd new favorite target, Scotty Miller, who seemed to be very, very prominently involved yesterday. The pick 6 then went the other way, which, by the way, was Brady's 3rd straight game with a pick 6, all losses where the pick 6 were crushing to his team. I think that one was on him, but it's the same old story.
That was on him.
For some reason or another. Whether it's in New England or Tampa, Brandon, when Brady plays terribly, it's the pieces around him as opposed to maybe, just maybe, the oldest quarterback ever is playing like it. Maybe there's a reason no other quarterback has ever started a full season at age 42 and now into 43.
Nick,
go.
Nick, I got to stop you there. There was no offseason. There was no preseason. We showed that pick again down the middle of the field. That is on the wide receiver. It's so easy for us watching the game to be able to point at the quarterback and say that's the quarterback's fault. But as a wide receiver, we know if we're in a slot and we have a seam route and there's one safety in the middle of the field, that essentially turns into an inside go down the numbers, literally down the top of the numbers. When it's too high, too deep safeties, you're taught to take the middle of the field, get to 12 yards to be exact, and take the middle. As a wide receiver, and smart wide receivers like Mike Evans, you feel that pressure. You see Demario Davis taking it. So in his mind, he's thinking, well, you know what? This isn't a good look. But that's not his job to think that. His job is to go and take the middle of the field. Tom Brady is going through, in his head, he's thinking, well, this is a 6'5", 220-pound wide receiver. I can throw it up to this guy. It's his ball or nobody's ball. He hasn't had these weapons since Randy Moss. So he's excited to throw it to him and let him make a play. And Mike Evans put his quarterback in a bad spot.
Okay, but let me ask you something, Brandon. As a guy who's Mike Evans' size, Mike Evans' skill set, let's just say, Mike, I agree with you. I'll concede the point on that interception that Mike Evans made a mistake. As a guy who I'm sure in the course of your career, you've made a mistake where you run the wrong route or you do something wrong and it ends up being an interception. You want the quarterback to still have faith and go back to you. A concerning part of yesterday, and I go back to the Tom Brady-Howard Stern interview. I think it was the Stern interview where he said they knew in New England that if I don't trust a guy, I'm not going to throw to him anymore. So McDaniels can keep him out there. That's fine, but I won't throw to him. Mike Evans makes that mistake early, and he might as well have been inactive as we thought he might be the rest of the game. All of a sudden, it's O.J. Howard, Scotty Miller, and his 13 career catches going into this game were prominently featured. Chris Godwin had some good plays. If you're Mike Evans,
in this situation
are you a little frustrated that the quarterback, you make one mistake and the quarterback won't look your way the rest of the game when you're an all-pro receiver?
No, I mean, I've been in this position before. The question really is, should Mike Evans have played? Right? Because you're already going in with so much change. There's no chemistry. There's no offseason. We haven't gotten those full speed reps. So Mike Evans coming in was dealing with a hamstring. He was a game time decision. This is what the game was supposed to look like. It is week 1. This is a new team. He's going into a new situation. He's bringing his offense from New England to Tampa. And that was a big question mark as well. It's like, well, how is this going to work? Is it going to be Bruce Arians' offense? Is it going to be Tom Brady and New England's offense? It's Tom Brady's offense. Everything that Tom Brady did well for the past 20 years, they did it here. So when you look at Mike Evans had 10 or so targets. He's not upset. He knows the situation. This is week 1. You saw it after the play when Tom threw the interception. What did they do? Tom yelled, he screamed, he cursed. He went to Mike. They talked it out. Everything will be fine. It is week 1. Everyone needs to relax. Okay. Relax.
Listen, I know it's week 1. And I know week 1 are overreaction times. But if week 1 is a continuation of what we've seen from certain players from last season, then it's not an overreaction. Tom Brady threw a bad pick 6 in a must-win week 17 game that they ended up losing by a score to the Dolphins. Tom Brady threw a pick 6 to end the wild card playoff game against the Titans. Tom Brady, after the Mike Evans caused interception, evidently, he then throws a pick 6 that blew this game wide open. I agree with you about Todd Bowles. I thought the Bucs defense presents some really interesting problems and made Breeze look a little old himself. We know how good Evans and Godwin are. And Brandon, I know folks thought I was being sarcastic or a jerk this summer when I asked this question, but I will ask it again. are the Tampa Bay Bucs a quarterback away from being a contender? Because Tom Brady, from what we've seen from him, not just in week one, but what we've seen from him since, God, the AFC Championship game against the Chiefs in 2018,
Stop it, Nick.
the Super Bowl, all of last year and week one, he looks old, he looks inaccurate, and he looks easily rattled by pressure. And that's just what I've seen from Brady over the last 20 or so games.
Let me paint this picture for you and all of America. Everyone that woke up at 7:30 to listen to us speak about, football being back. All right, let me jump industries. You are such a great teammate. You came on and said, Brandon, the past month you've been great. Oh, Brandon, who would have thought that the chemistry would have been so amazing between Jenna and Nick and Brandon? The reality is it hasn't been great. The reality is my internet cut out. With 10 minutes to go before showtime, I had to go to the studio. That's the reality. The reality is, where is Jenna? Where is Nick right now? We're virtual for the very first time. This is a global pandemic. We're figuring this out. I didn't even know who Nick Wilds was 5 months ago. Now I'm figuring out who he is. I had a little bit of time with you.
Kevin Wilds.
No, it's true. You see what I'm saying? You see how I did that? You see how I did that? The reality is this. Even in football, whether it's football or media, you have to build chemistry, all right? And this is week one. It took me a month to get Kevin Wilds' name down, okay? That's the reality. So give Tom Brady and the Bucs some time.
Guys, there is some good news for the Bucs. I found it. They're back out there next weekend hosting Carolina. Let's see if they can right their wrongs. You know who else had just one loss now on the schedule? The Dallas Cowboys. Tough opener for them last night. Next, first things first.
Nick Wilds.
Sunday on Fox, Cowboys will try to get back on track in their home opener against Matty Ryan and the Falcons. Or you may see Jimmy G and the Niners as they take on the Jets. All the NFL action kicks off 1 Eastern. Check local listings for the games in your area or watch it on the Fox Sports app. Oh, I have an idea. Let's talk some aforementioned Cowboys in L.A. taking on the Rams. Here we go, Brandon.
Brutal.
Boys down 3. Dak finds Michael Gallup down the sideline, 3rd and 10. Get him into field goal range. But hang on. Wait 1 second. A flag is thrown on the play for offensive pass interference. Gallup flagged for contact with Jalen Ramsey, and that was it for the Cowboys. Rams win it 20-17, spoiling Mike McCarthy's debut, spoiling Dak's season opener, well, you get how spoiling works. Here's the head coach on that costly pass interference call.
Yeah, I really didn't see a replay of it. Just watching it live, it looked like two guys hand fighting. I thought it was well executed. I was surprised there was a call there either way. So very obviously disappointed in the call, particularly at that point in the game. I thought they let both teams play tonight, and you just don't usually see that, particularly at a critical point in the game. So I have not seen a replay, so that's about as much as I can comment on it.
It was clear as day. If they wouldn't have called that, then I would have been highly upset. So yeah, that was clear as day, in my opinion. I don't know what y'all saw, but that's what I saw and felt out there.
All right, there's a lot to get to in this one. Let's start with that offensive PI. Brandon, you've been moaning and groaning through these highlights. Did you think it was a call or not? What'd you make of it?
I'll say this. By the letter of the law, this was the right call. But this is the call that frustrates wide receivers and quarterbacks around the globe, all right? Because when you look at it, who's the first to really engage in hand combat down the sideline?
Jalen.
It's usually the DB. Yeah, of course.
Yep.
So what do you, Mr. Referee, what do you want me to do? Jalen has my arm. How do I get my arm away? We're taught not to be violent with the shove and not to be violent with the separation. This kid, Gallup, did exactly what he was supposed to do. Now, I will say this. Nick, let me ask you this question. Where was the game played?
Yeah. The game was played
in
Los
L.A.,
Angeles.
right?
Yep.
L.A., Hollywood. Do you know that, fun fact, Jalen Ramsey, his acting coach, Barry Nash, did a phenomenal job with him. The best thing about this play was Jalen Ramsey's acting job. He acted like he was being shoved to the sideline.
Yep.
That was the best part about it. That's why he got this call. It reminds me of the basketball players flopping. This was a bad call, but we need to really look at the letter of the law if we want to see this call change moving forward.
All right, Brandon, so a couple things. I know what Jalen Ramsey's been doing when he's not been at practice. He's been watching the crosstown basketball team, the LA Clippers, because that looked like Patrick Beverly out there. Like, oh, the slightest of contact, and you flail backwards like you've been shot by someone in the crowd. But so listen, I don't think that was a good call, but I also don't think it was a horrific call. We saw the exact same call made on George Kittle in the Super Bowl. Remember? Into the first half, Jimmy G's best throw of the whole game to put the Niners in field goal range at least. He gets called for OPI. And with so many of the rules favoring the offense over the defense, I'm not gonna freak out about this. So like I understand why if you're a Cowboys fan, you're frustrated. But you should channel that frustration that you are directing towards the referees and turn your focus to not only Mike McCarthy, but that barn he spent a year grinding tape in. Because I want to know what tape he was grinding that tells him, hey, 3rd and 6 in the red zone, down 3. This is the time for the halfback draw. The hell you doing, man? I didn't actually mind going for it on 4th down, but you want to give yourself 2 chances to get a first down. He gave himself 0 chances. You run the halfback draw on 3rd down, and then Dak throws short of the sticks. How do you throw short of the sticks on 4th and 3? And then to compound it, Brandon, when they force the stop on 3rd and short to get one last chance, there's about 3:15 left in the game. He keeps that timeout in his pocket, knowing the Rams are going to run the full play clock down, and then never uses it. They could have had the ball with 3:10 or thereabouts left. Plenty of time. Instead, he keeps the timeout, doesn't use the timeout after Dak gets sacked, doesn't use the timeout after Dak's scramble, doesn't use the timeout after Zeke's run. The hell you doing, man? Like, this was a very inglorious debut, Brandon, for Mike McCarthy from a schematic and coaching perspective. That was to me more brutal than the OPI for the Cowboys.
This is what you want in a football game, especially opening up the season. You're on the road. You're in a hostile environment. I know there's no fans, but you're on the road. This is exactly the position you want to be in the 4th quarter. We know when we take the field, it comes down to a handful of plays, okay? So that 4th down that he went for, that was critical. That just shows that this was bad situational football. This was bad coaching in this moment. First of all, it's 3rd down. You know that you have a shot. 3rd down, you're supposed to take a shot in the end zone. All right, you go to your quarterback and you tell your quarterback, look, if we don't get the touchdown, we got the field goal. We tie it up. We're on the road. We'll go win it in overtime. What does he do on 3rd down? You said it right. He runs a draw. That's bad. What he's supposed to do is go to his quarterback, like I said, and tell him, look, you throw it in the corner of the end zone. Either your guy has it or no guy has it. Because we can't afford a turnover right now. That was bad situational football, and that falls on coach. We can talk about his traditional offense with a few little wrinkles. We're pretty much seeing the same Green Bay offense, and it's disturbing a little bit. But if we're asking a coach to do the same thing, then we need Dak to step up and do something different. What does that mean? If I'm Dak Prescott, all right, I'm not sitting in a pocket and I'm not playing traditional quarterback play. What I'm doing is I'm looking at Russell Wilson and I'm saying, all right, how does Russell Wilson play this game? And that's what you have to do. Dak Prescott is so dynamic. He has some of the best wills in football. He needs to impose his will on the game when he takes off and runs and breaks the pocket. We're not seeing that. Let's look at the first 4 years of Russell Wilson and compare it to Dak. And I'm really looking at the last 2 lines, rush attempts and rush yards. Russell Wilson has almost more than 1,000 yards rushing than Dak Prescott. Why is that? Look at what Russell Wilson does when he breaks the pocket and he takes off. That's why this team looks so dynamic. That's why Russell Wilson is a part of the MVP discussion every single year.
But Brandon,
that's why Russell Wilson's able to put up 30 points a game.
Do you want Dak
Jenna.
to veer away from Mike McCarthy's play calling? Is that what you would have wanted to see yesterday, which teetered between too conservative and not conservative enough, if I'm listening to both you guys?
I use that graphic to highlight this one thing. If Coach McCarthy's offense is going to be traditional and he's going to do the same thing, then we have to have Dak do something different, something he's never done. 3 rushing attempts is not good enough, okay? When you have Lamar Jackson and you have Cam Newton and you can throw Wentz in there, you have these quarterbacks that's imposing the will in the game. Dak did it last night. What did Dak do when the game was on the line? It was 3rd down. He took off and he ran for it. We need to see that more, because when you do that, you put everyone on the defensive side, including the coaches, in a bad position. Yeah. So this team can be very dynamic if Dak just adds that component to his game. Look at Russell Wilson and just pull from what he's done over the last couple of years.
And listen, I just feel like, and I understand Cowboys fans are like, man, if they don't call that OPI, we're kicking a field goal, going to overtime, have a chance to steal it. I understand that. But focusing on that, to me, prevents you from looking at the bigger issues. One of the issues I've laid out, I believe, is Mike McCarthy's coaching and clock management in this game. Brandon laid out, listen, Dak, you didn't hold out, but you're holding firm for $40+ million a year. All of a sudden, you got 3 second-half points. Can't happen. Amari Cooper, one of the highest-paid receivers in the league, a critical 4th quarter 3rd down. Dak delivers it. You let Jalen bully you out of it. And DeMarcus Lawrence. Has anyone seen DeMarcus Lawrence since he signed the 5-year, $105 million contract before last season? Because all of last year, that $105 million contract got you 5 sacks. And last night, the best front 7 guy for the Cowboys was someone who hadn't played in 5 years, Aldon Smith. DeMarcus Lawrence, another game where he barely shows up on the stat sheet. The Cowboys have built their team, Jenna, very top-heavy. A bunch of very expensive, high-level players. Amari had a huge mistake. DeMarcus Lawrence was a no-show. Dak was mediocre to my eye. And Mike McCarthy, their biggest offseason addition, was making some of the same game management mistakes that got him run out of Green Bay, even though he's got a damn street named after him there. It was all bad for the Cowboys last night.
And we didn't even get to some of the injuries that the Cowboys suffered who may be gone for the season.
Jarwin.
We will talk much more about this still to come. Cowboys will try to get back on track. Yeah, you're right, Nick, against the Falcons Sunday on Fox. But coming up, Cam Newton making his Patriots debut. I think Bill Belichick was happy with his new quarterback. First things first, I know Wilds was.
I'm back.
We got to get back to this, to Foxborough.
Tracy in the house.
Cam Newton downplaying his debut yesterday, trying to sneak in, without being seen. Maybe if I wear this, no one will see me. The very subtle quarterback was seen quite well, though, when he took the field, throwing for 155 yards, but running 15 times for 75 yards and 2 scores. Take that, Tom Brady. The Patriots using the ground game for a change to get the Week 1 win over the Dolphins. A new era officially underway in New England. Here is Cam Newton after the Patriots win.
I'm just so blessed to have this opportunity, man, to, number one, be affiliated with an organization. Knowing that in itself is a blessing. To get a win, and that's another added plus. But yet through it all, this has been a strenuous, long process for me. And yet through it all, it's just been gratifying. And I just had such a sense of gratitude, to the New England Patriots and to this team, just to give all that I could possibly give and hell or high water finish today at this particular time with us, going home with the win.
Probably a custom-made suit, but I don't know these kind of things. Hey, with that, we welcome in our quarterback, Michael Vick. All right, Mike, what'd you make of Cam Newton's debut yesterday?
I thought it was a great performance. I give him an A grade. The attack was balanced. Cam did well in the passing game. He did well in the run game, which we knew. But what was more impressive was that he was 15 for 19. And, we all wondered, what he would look like throwing the football for the New England Patriots. And he was very efficient. He threw the ball well. I think in terms of, what this offense is going to continue to bring, they'll continue to build on this performance. And the one thing I think they really went back and did was watch Cam at Auburn, because yesterday looked like Cam at Auburn. It was a play action. It was sweeps. It was zone read. It was, what Cam is used to. And, if they can keep this up, even though it was the Miami Dolphins, I take no credit away from them. But it was a good week 1 start. But I can't wait to see what happened next week as they get into the thick of their schedule, going up to Seattle and, pulling out the same game plan, if not add more, to see, if Cam can be just as productive or even better. So I think all in all, I give him an A grade. He looked comfortable. He looked like he was excited. You heard him in the post-game press conference. He expressed his gratitude, and I think that's everything. If you can be happy playing the game of football, if you can be happy at the quarterback position, then you can keep building on what you built.
Well, Mike, I think those are great points, and I want to give a shout out to Josh McDaniels, because he had his struggles as a head coach, but this is a team who was the only team in the entire league last year, I believe, to run 0 zone read plays, and they ran 10 of them in Cam's first game, because he is doing what his talent demands. And I don't mean Cam is demanding to do it. I mean, given who your team is, what their skill sets are, let's build a game plan around it. And I want to give a second shout out to our beloved Kevin Wildes, who I will admit, I've never seen a power play like the one Wildes pulled this morning, which was, Wildes said, we have to lead with Cam. We have to lead with Cam. We're like, no, we got to do the Bucs Saints, and then we got to do Cowboys. And then Wildes said, okay, well, I'm not showing up till we're talking Cam. And now we're talking Cam, so I welcome in Kevin Wildes. Good to see you, my friend. I have to admit one other thing, Kevin. This was such a full tour de force Cam performance, from walking in looking like Dick Tracy to walking out with the victory and the 2 touchdown runs. For the first time in my life, you know what? For this first time since the Randy Moss year, because I was pretty enthralled by Randy that year, I found myself not only not rooting against your Patriots, I didn't have a bet on them.
Our Patriots.
And I found myself pulling for them. I was like, come on, Cam. And I felt a little gross, like I needed a shower. But it was so exciting to see Cam doing Cam things, Wildes, that I was rooting for your squad yesterday.
No, it's our squad, Nick. And you know what? The more things change, the more they stay the same. Just another victory in Foxborough. Was I ever in doubt? No. 11th opening victory out of the last 12 years for Bill Belichick. Win number 550 since 1960. We're only a few wins away from the Steelers and Cowboys. So I know we only talk about the dynasty in the last 2 decades, but we might start talking about the most successful team of all time. 94-31 now in the AFC East again. New record.
Now I hate him
Cam
again.
was super efficient, of
now
course.
I hate you guys again.
2 touchdowns running, 0 interceptions, 0 chains snatched as well. If we could see his Instagram posts, tried to snatch my chain and the game. Too bad I got both. That is right. And Brandon, people are taking shots at Ryan Fitzmagic because he had 3 INTs. He's a good quarterback. His career is not over. He's still got a lot left in the tank. I feel like people are taking shots at him to try to tank the Patriots defense. Patriots defense looked great, Brandon.
Who tried to take his
we're on to
chain?
Seattle, just
Who
another
tried to
victory.
take his chain? Who tried to take his chain?
Dolphins.
What's going on here? No, yeah. Oh,
Yes,
man.
multiple
Listen, this is what I saw yesterday. What I saw yesterday was the formula to the Patriots' success. What we saw was that the New England Patriots going to double down on using Cam in the run game. Mike, you said it. Nick, you said it, right? We saw zone read. We haven't seen that in the last 20 years come out of the Patriots offense. We saw the sweep. We saw quarterback draws. I thought they were really efficient with their game plan. However, I don't think that Cam was Cam. I think we're going to see Cam in about week 5, week 6, hitting that mid-season stride. I don't think he had his legs under him, which means the NFL needs to take note, and this could be a dangerous situation because there's two things you want as a player. You want an opportunity and you want a coach, right? And he has that. You hear him talk about it week in and week out. I have a coach. And then Josh McDaniels, you alluded to this earlier, Nick, right? Like how awesome of a job he did. There's two things you got to look at, right? And I keep saying 2, but that's the magic number today. Number 1. Can Josh McDaniels dial it up? The answer is yes, he can dial it up. What does that mean? There's a lot of guys that can can call the games and can call plays, but can you dial it up at the right time in the right moments? And the second thing is, can he be creative? And we saw that yesterday. We saw guards, we saw tackles out in the open blocking for Cam. He's one of the most creative play callers the game has ever seen. And for that reason, this formula can be super successful for the Patriots moving forward.
Well, and I'll add one other point, which is folks were wondering, because I was down on the Patriots last year. I thought the defense was propped up a bit by the awful run of quarterbacks they were playing early in the season. So folks are like, Nick, you didn't think the Patriots were that good last year, and yet you have them winning the division again, going to the playoffs this year after all those defensive opt-outs. How do you square that circle? And the answer is this. And Jenna, it at least at some point has made Patriot fans mad, but they'll admit it eventually. The reason I have the Patriots still winning the division, making the playoffs, is they got better at quarterback. Tom Brady in 2019 is not as good as Cam Newton in 2020. And by the way, Tom Brady in 2020 is clearly, after 1 week, not nearly as good as Cam Newton in 2020. So we're not talking about historical greatness, but the Patriots got better at quarterback, Jenna, from last year to this year.
And based on yesterday, Nick is absolutely correct on that. Time now for Put a Grade on It. All right, DeAndre Hopkins had a monster debut for his Arizona Cardinals. 14 catches, 151 yards in the Cardinals' upset win over the 49ers. DeAndre tweeting, "This is what y'all wanted to see after the game." So Brandon Marshall put a grade on Nuke's debut yesterday.
Well, this is what you want as a player. When you get traded and the team just give you away, you just want to show them that you still got it, and he did that yesterday. So when we look at efficiency, check. We look at productivity, check. And we look at swag, check. I got to give him an A+ for this performance. Great job.
All right, good
Look at that dime by
coming up.
Tyler. Come on.
Is this the year that Russ finally gets an MVP vote? We're talking Mr. Unlimited next. First things first.
Unlimited.
Drawing a blank. There's the slate. Talking most impressive performances this weekend. For me, it was obviously my guy Gardner Minshew. Balled out.
That's a good one.
3 touchdowns, just 1 incompletion. Brandon, in your opinion, the most impressive performance on Sunday was blank.
Jenna, that was a good one. No one's going to talk about
Thank you.
the Jacksonville Jaguars, but I have to go to the Seattle Seahawks and my guy who I said would be the MVP this year, Russell Wilson. He already got off to a hot start. And then also, tip of the hat to this guy, 30,000. He joined Steve Young for the only players to have 30,000 plus career passing yards and 4,000 career rushing yards. Tip of the hat to this year's MVP.
And he's got a cute kid.
Listen, Russ and the Seahawks looked great. I'm going to stay same conference, different division. Much like Mark Twain, it would appear the demise of Aaron Rodgers has been greatly exaggerated. Just a little 360 to about a 130 passer rating, a dime, a back-breaking dime to end the first half and to cause massive separation between the rival Vikings. Folks said this is the Viking. Look at this pass. I mean, look at this pass right there, right before the half. It's just perfect. He was spectacular. So Russ and Rodgers, to me, Brandon, were the two best quarterbacks we saw this weekend. Fortunately for them, Patrick Mahomes played Thursday, so they had a real chance to win that award. Go ahead, Wilds.
Go ahead, Wilds.
And much like Charles Dickens' The Tale of Two Cities, if we're talking about historic authors, I went with DeAndre Hopkins, career high in receptions. Kyler looking like an MVP too. The only other thing, the other tale of the other city, it's like, Super Bowl hangover time. It's not just for the Chiefs and Nick Wright's ice pack that oddly he wears on his neck when he gets hungover. But the San Francisco 49ers look a little bit shaky. Got to make sure my guy George Kittle is okay. So as good as the Cardinals were, I'm equally worried about the 49ers, Jenna. Yeah, go.
Wilds, that is what the Super Bowl hangover is. It's the losing team. I tried to tell you guys this all summer. You guys invented a fake hangover about the Super Bowl winner that doesn't exist.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I'm reiterating it because we saw it yesterday. Okay, I wish you knew it
It's fun to make fun of you, but I know what it is.
Okay. Oh, well, I couldn't tell.
Much like John Grisham, the mystery that is Washington. That's as far back as I go, literally speaking. Where Carson Wentz was sacked 8 times, threw 2 picks, lost a fumble, and the Eagles looked out of sorts in their Week 1 loss. Brandon, the most disappointing performance on Sunday, though, was blank.
I got to go with Baker Mayfield. When you have Kareem Hunt, you have Nick Chubb, Jarvis Landry, Odell Beckham Jr., you have to put up more than 6 points. So it's Week 1. I don't want to overreact, but I got to look at this guy. He starts the opening drive with a pick. That's not good. But if this continues, I'm looking at him and his head coach. You can't start the season this way, big dog. Can't do it.
Well, listen, poor Kevin Stefanski. First game, Brandon's already got him on the hot seat. Stefanski's like, I just got here. This team's been terrible for 30 years. You're blaming me for this? In the Browns' defense, they were playing the Ravens. So I'm going to bring up a team that doesn't have that defense. Most disappointing performance was the entire Philadelphia Eagles. You're up 17-0 on Washington. The hell you doing letting them score 27 straight? Carson Wentz can't get protected, and when he does get protected, he can't stop throwing the ball to players on the other team. This was a brutal, as devastating of a Week 1 loss you can have without suffering a major rash of injuries is what Philadelphia suffered. It was all good until it was all bad. That is an indefensible loss by Philly, Doug Peterson, Wentz, the entire organization. The Liberty Bell can get some too. All of Philadelphia should hang their head in shame this morning. That can't happen, Wilds.
Cow. Tough one for the Liberty Bell.
Brutal.
Tough for Independence today. I see your Eagles and raise you the Lions. All in. You give Mitch Trubisky about to lose his starting job in the first half. Like, get him out of there. Get Nick Foles in. Next thing you know, Mitch Trubisky looks great, but if Swift catches this ball, it's still Mitch Trubisky might lose his job still. Matt Patricia is getting killed. He probably deserves it. But again, you're a catch away. I know you're a rookie. You got to make this catch. I feel bad for Matt Stafford making this happen. So Eagles have played terribly, but don't forget the Detroit Lions also played terribly, Nick.
Yeah, there's like 7 players and coaches who lost jobs already this weekend. On to the Cowboys now. The offensive pass interference call on Michael Gallup that cost the Cowboys still being debated fiercely this morning. But, Brandon, the biggest overreaction today will be blank.
Everything. It's Week 1. Everything today is an overreaction. The team I just crushed, the Cleveland Browns, can easily make its way into the playoffs. It's Week 1. Let's take our time. Let's see where things are at come Week 5, Week 6.
All right.
Listen, I'm glad you walked back the Browns a little bit because the biggest overreaction will be about the Browns. Remember last year when in Week 1 Baltimore beat Miami, I think 51-0, and there were real discussions. Is Miami the worst team in NFL history? And then Miami, turned out, wasn't even one of the 4 worst teams in the NFL in 2019. The Ravens can make teams look terrible. So listen, Baker was bad. Odell seemed to already be in a funk, unfortunately. There were a lot of really, really bad things for Cleveland. But they were playing one of the 2 best teams in football. So let's pump the brakes on the Browns just a bit until we see them next week against more typical competition, Wilds.
Jenna, I went off the board here. I went with Zeke's stomach tattoo. A feed me stomach tattoo. Man. And part of me thinks, you know, carpe diem. Carpe diem. You're young, you're athletic, you're doing your thing, you want the ball. But I don't know if this is going to age too well. But you know what? I'm for it. So my reaction is all over the place. But I'm considering it an overreaction, Jenna.
I can't tell you how hard
This
it
may
is
be the
to
worst
rock
tattoo
one of
I've
those
ever
half
seen.
shirts. All right, on to tonight's slate.
It's not the worst.
Big Ben coming off elbow surgery against Danny Dimes and the fighting Joe Judges. Ooh, Wilds is excited. Then it's Titans-Broncos in the nightcap. Brandon, what are you most excited about on Monday Night Football? The thing you are most excited about, if I'm going to rephrase this correctly, is blank.
Yeah, number 8, Daniel Jones. I want to say Big Ben. I'm really excited about the Pittsburgh Steelers. I got them going to the Super Bowl. But I know who Big Ben is when he's healthy. He's dangerous. Daniel Jones has a lot to prove this year. You heard his general manager, Dave Gettleman, already say this guy did things that no other rookie quarterback has ever done. Well, Dave, I want to see that. I want to see the maturation of this kid. If this kid can turn it on, you could potentially see, a dark horse come out of this division.
Well, I'm going to go the other way. Wilds, I got good news for you. And Wilds has, I think, 6 favorite football teams. So one of his 6 favorite football teams, the Giants and Joe Judge. The old quarterbacks all looked awful. So Breeze got the win. He didn't look good. Brady obviously looked terrible. And a guy that we're not talking about because who cares about the game, Phillip Rivers. Good God, that was Phillip Rivers Chargers music. Oh, it's a close game late? Let me throw one of these duck interceptions that's totally indefensible. That's 3 of the 4 old guys. You know who the last one is? Big Ben. You know who he's facing? Your old tennis ball to the hands New York Giants. So I'm really interested to see how Big Ben looks because right now that 38-plus group of quarterbacks has all looked bad in week 1.
Look at that arm.
Don't forget
Look how
the
he's
Patriots.
spinning it.
Don't forget the Patriots magic. Apple doesn't fall far from the dynasty tree and the most creative mind in football. Joe Judge going up against Big Ben, his old rival. Granted, Joe Judge was on special teams, but you still get rings when you're with the Patriots, and Big Ben has a problem with the Patriots. Look for the big upset, big game from Saquon. Giants over Steelers tonight.
Wait, we basically just had Matt Patricia fired, but Joe Judge is the hero?
No.
Are Tom Brady and the Bucs in trouble
Fair point,
after
Jenna.
yesterday? Wow, thanks. I don't want to go to break. Let's keep talking about my fair point.
And Tom Brady
we break down TB12's shaky start next. This is First Things First.
You have to stay in the Northeast.
Welcome back to First Things First. Our top story this morning, the most anticipated matchup of the weekend. Breeze, Brady in the NFL's first matchup of 40-year-old starting quarterbacks. And not the start Brady had hoped for, I'm sure. Throwing 2 picks, including a costly pick 6. Brady would finish 239 passing yards and 3 total scores. Drew Brees, kind of pedestrian as well, 160 yards passing and 2 scores. But it was good enough for the win. Saints take the opener, 34-23 your final. Here is Tom Brady after an up-and-down debut.
Yeah, it was just, it felt like a scrimmage out there. But, obviously it counts. And I think we're all disappointed it didn't go our way. But the only people that can do something about it are the guys in the room. And we got to look at each other in the eye and all work harder, put more urgency on the things we have to do. And, get back to work and do a better job. When you don't play your best and you play good teams, you obviously get beat. And we played far from our best. So 3 turnovers, they didn't have any. We had penalties, they didn't have many. We didn't have great field position, they had great field position. It's just all those things add up, and we got to do a much better job in every area.
Kind of unfamiliar territory for Tom Brady to be talking like that. We welcome back in our Monday morning quarterback, Michael Vick. I mean, Mike, what do you take away from yesterday? Is it too soon to be worried about that loss for the Bucs?
Yes, too soon, and I'll probably be saying this all day as I talk about various teams. It's just week one, and the New Orleans Saints, they are a good football team, and they've been together a lot longer than the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. But when I think about this game and when I watched it yesterday, and maybe B. Marshall, you can help me with this. What was Mike Evans? You know, I think for offense to be successful, when I thought about the Tampa Bay Buccaneers being successful in their own right, I knew the offense had to run through Mike Evans. And for 2 years in a row, Marshawn Lattimore has put the clamps on Mike Evans. And I don't know if it's a thing that he has. He got a tip on what Mike Evans does well, if he just gets in his hip, if he's just I don't know, better athlete or what it is. You know, I won't say that, but the offense has to run through Mike Evans. Mike Evans was non-existent, and then they took away Gronk, so to speak. So without having that number one option and without being able to go down the field and be able to stretch the field, it made the game difficult for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And the fact that Mike Evans wasn't present, I think, hurt Tampa Bay tremendously. So, B. Marsh, maybe you can help me with that. I don't know, but I really feel like that was a catalyst for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers losing this game.
Finally, some quarterback put respect on the wide receivers. Thank you so much for saying that the offense should go through a number one receiver, because I've always said that. When you have a dynamic number one receiver like that, it opens it up for everyone else. It's easier on the play caller. It's easier on the quarterback. It's easier on the run game. And you have that in Mike Evans. Now, I'm not looking at the last couple years, Mike. What I'm going to look at is this game. I know, and I got to give my guy a little bit of due right now because, look, he came in with a hamstring. There was talk that he might not even play. But when I look at the three defining things and that came down, that determined this game, the outcome of this game, I'm looking at starting with Mike Evans. Number one, that first pick, okay? You know when you're in the slot and you have a seam route, if it's one high, one safety deep, that turns into a go route down the numbers. What was cover two? It was two deep safeties. And when you see that, you're taught to get to 12 yards, plant that left foot in the ground, and take off down the middle. That's what Tom Brady was expecting. So Coach Mangini said this Friday, it comes down to continuity and it comes down to change. And that's what we're seeing. These guys just aren't on the same page. Mike Evans put his quarterback in a bad spot. Another thing we got to pay attention to is this offensive line. The left tackle was bad. I was talking about the right tackle on Friday. Well, the left tackle was really bad, and the right tackle looked like a rookie as we expected. And then the last thing that jumped out to me is that the defense didn't help out Tom and Bruce, right? Like, you expect this defense to stand up. And they actually, Coach Bowles actually called a really good game, but they gave up too many explosive plays. What is an explosive play? 15-plus yards in the passing game. Way too much. I'm excited to see what happens come week 9 when these teams match up again. But those are the three things that stood out to me and determined the outcome of this game.
Yeah. Those are all really good points. And gosh, it just sounds so familiar. Like the familiar refrain, Tom Brady needs more help. Guys, it gets down on Tom. All of a sudden, the offensive line stinks. All of a sudden, the best weapons in the NFC. Well, how good are they really? Scotty Miller, who no one had ever heard of him, but he's a little guy and he looks like he would fit right in on the Patriots. It's the only guy Tom Brady seemed to have any rapport with. It was unbelievable how that worked out. So a couple things. One is on Mike Evans. And Kevin Wildes, I'm going to go back to a Brady interview from this summer. Remember what he said about young receivers? Or receivers he doesn't have a rapport with? He was like, listen, you can put them on the field, but if I don't trust them, I won't throw to them. So Mike Evans, according to everyone involved, this first pick is his fault. Now, even if Mike runs the right route, I don't think that's a completion, but regardless. And then Brady, after that, targeted him twice the entire rest of the football game. It's one thing to say, N'Keal Harry, I don't trust you. It's another thing to say to an all-pro, I'm not going to you anymore. Now, maybe Lattimore had him just locked up, but I would have liked to see Mike Evans, if he's going to play, be targeted a few more times than 4 total in the game. But everyone Wilds is going to bang on Brady this morning. And so let me give him some credit, because it's kind of unfair that Brady is going to finish second in every major passing stat. He should be first in some of them, but the guy across the field from him, Breeze, is just going to have all the counting numbers. There is, though, one seemingly unbreakable record that Brady can tie next week. Matt Schaub's 4 straight games with pick sixes.
I know.
Tom Brady is on the precipice of it. Week 17, Miami, pick 6. Playoff game, Titans, pick 6. Last night, Saints Bucs, pick 6. So Tom Brady, he might be second in yards and touchdowns, completions, all of that. He might end up first, at least tied with Schaub, right there in consecutive pick sixes. Wilds, a lot of people said that record would never be broken. It was Cal Ripken's record. It was the Joe DiMaggio's hitting streak. He's one game away, and I believe Tom Brady can do it, Wilds.
Well, good. You know, I'm happy that you're rooting for him. Brandon, Bruce Arians after the game pinned that first interception on Brady, didn't pin it on Mike Evans.
Yep.
Are you saying that's all Mike Evans and not Brady? Because, or do you think Bruce Arians is just kind of like playing some sort of game in the media?
Well, if we want to play the blame game, then it's Bruce's fault. You know, let me tell you why. Because when you ask a wide receiver to take the seam versus cover 2, and you don't have an outside receiver holding that safety, the near side safety on the go route, then of course this is what's going to happen. So when we talk about methods and approaches and philosophy to offense, if you have Mike Evans on the seam, out there by the sideline should be another wide receiver running down to make sure that this safety holds true to what he's supposed to cover. So if we're going to play the blame game, then let's blame it on Bruce Arians.
Wow.
Absolutely. And when you're talking about passing concepts, Brandon, know this, it's certain rules it could be 4 or 5 different rules to one particular play. And, you know, they got to be on the same page in regards to who's going where the ball should be put. And these are things that you got to practice and put time into. And you can't go out in week 1 and not look like you haven't practiced it. So, you know, it's a couple people that you can blame. Obviously, Tom has the ball in his hands. Every player, he makes the decision on where the ball go. But if they can't get on the same page now, you know, now more than ever, they got to work hard this week to make sure that they don't have the same mishap in week 2.
Wilds, here's the concern for Tampa, and I understand there's a lack of continuity and all of that. The whole idea was that at the very least, Brady won't be the turnover machine Jameis was. Brady threw his first pick earlier in the first game this year than Jameis did last year, threw his first pick 6 earlier than Jameis did last year, and already has a 2-turnover game. Like the Bucs, the idea was even if Brady is not still vintage Tom Brady, he's going to take care of the football. And we can parse that first interception. But that second interception, it looked just like the interception Brady's understudy last year, Jared Stidham threw against the Jets. They got him yanked out of the game and Brady put back in. It's just a bad throw on an out route to the sideline, missed in the exact spot you can't miss it. And so that... Yeah, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Go ahead, Vic.
Can I just jump? Can I just jump in here real quick?
No,
Is it possible that Tom Brady feels like he needs to take this on himself? That this is all about what he's going to do, and if he can't orchestrate every facet of this offense, then it's just hang on. Doesn't it seem like he was going to go out there and do as much as he possibly could, even taking chances where maybe last year he wouldn't, throwing into double coverages? It just felt like not that he was more reckless, but that he was trying really hard to do absolutely everything. Michael, you didn't see that in Tom Brady yesterday at all?
I don't think Tom is taking the onus, feeling like he has to do everything on his own, because I think he recognized that he has weapons all around him, and he has a great coaching staff who are going to put the team in positions to be successful. But I do know that, Tom feels like, the part of the responsibility is on him. And, let's be clear, Tom is he's not 28, 29 years old. Tom is 43, so he needs all the help that he can get. And, throughout it all, what I was going to say a second ago is, Tom throwing those 2 interceptions, I'm kind of shaking my head when it happened because the guy that they jettisoned to bring in Tom was on the other sideline. And I'm like, this is just not good, So now I think the pressure of that was there as well. Tom is human. The guy that, he replaced was on the other sideline watching. And now you got to be, at your very best to show this organization.
Oh, that's interesting.
You made a good decision.
Huh.
Let me say it this. Let me land the plane like this, right? This is going into my 2nd month on this show. I'm not hanging my head from the rafters when I have a good show, and I'm not putting my head down when I have a bad show. Why? Because I know that it's going to take time for me to develop on TV. This is something new. I've never been on the show 5 days a week. I've never been on the show where I'm next to Nick Wright, where he can hold a topic for 10 minutes straight and go through the history of a team and history of a player. Kevin Wildes able to. He's so witty. At the drop of a dime, he can talk about anything. Jenna, you're one of the most amazing hosts. So I'm not putting my head down when I have a bad show. So this is week 1. Okay, everyone needs to relax because it takes time to build chemistry. This is what we're doing on this show, and this is what Tom Brady is doing with the Bucs.
Absolutely.
Jenna, the problem is this. The problem is this, though. Jenna, I'm sorry, you're right, Brandon. We're on 5 days a week. We got 250 of these a year. Brady's got 15 left. Like what? This isn't one bad football game. Is not one bad show. It's 20 bad shows.
16 shows.
It's a month. And so that the stakes are
doing
high.
a damn good job, B.
Yep.
Thank you. It takes time to build chemistry.
Is Carson Wentz to blame for the Eagles' shocking Week 1 loss in Washington? We are going to get excited about Week 1 next. First things first. Are we overreacting again? Sunday on Fox, Dak looks to bounce back after last night's loss in the Cowboys' home opener against Matt Ryan and the Falcons. Or you could see Jimmy G and the Niners. They take on the Jets. All the NFL action kicking off 1 Eastern. Check local listings for the games in your area or watch it on the Fox Sports app. And it is now time to recap yesterday's Super 6 contest. All 3 of you nailed the Saints to win, beat Tom Brady and the Bucs. Nick, was this an easy pick?
Well, the Saints to win was an easy pick, but I gave the Bucs far too much credit. Thought they could keep it closer. They cost me that $100,000. I'm going to invoice TB12 Productions directly for it. Jenna, back on the horse next week. Win that money. I don't know if you can win back-to-back years, if that's allowed, but we're going to find out.
You got to win the first year to win back-to-back years. Make sure you get your picks in before kickoff next Sunday for your chance to win $100,000 of Terry Bradshaw's well-earned money. And for top story scores and more, of course, you can always go to the Fox Sports app. All right, let's get back into it. Washington hosting the Eagles yesterday. Eagles looking pretty good in the first half. Touchdown passes to Ertz, touchdown passes to Goddard, but then things went south. Washington scored 27 unanswered points. Carson Wentz sacked 8 times, threw 2 picks, lost a fumble too, and that Washington defense dropped the hammer on Philly. 27-17 was your final. Here is Carson Wentz after the loss.
Kind of a tale of 2 halves, really. I got to be better. I know that. Came out, offensively, feeling good. We moved the ball right down the field, put up points, got ahead in the game, and, they got to clean up the interceptions. I put our defense in a bad spot on a couple occasions. And, it was just we've definitely lost some momentum, and, we didn't make the plays we needed to make. And I got to be better. It starts with me. I got to protect the ball, lead these guys better, and I'll own that.
Carson, it wasn't kind of a tale of 2 halves. It was a tale of 2 halves. Michael, your former team, you surprised what happened yesterday with the Eagles?
Yeah, very surprised after being so successful in the first half. And Carson took the words right out of my mouth. It was definitely a tale of 2 halves. And, I can't blame the 8 sacks because, throughout the course of the game, they made plays and they were productive at times. And, as, a Philadelphia Eagle, we always have that mindset that we're going to beat the Washington football team. We always felt like, regardless of what. So I think them jumping out on top early and coming into the game and having that bravado and looking good, I think they got a little complacent, and I think it caught up with them. And but this is definitely Carson Wentz's responsibility to carry this team. Somehow, some way, make up for the flaws and the things that aren't going so well. And when it's time to pick up the team in the third and fourth quarter, he got to put the team on his back. If they're not blocking well, if the schemes aren't working, then this is what you get paid the big bucks for, to step up, and put your team in a position where y'all can at least fight and will yourself to a win. And that was supposed to happen against the Washington football team yesterday, and it did come out. But I want to see more guys stepping up. They got to get healthy, obviously, and my man Deshaun Jackson. Carson got to air it out to Deshaun, man. He's the X factor. He's the guy that can change the game. So whatever that's going to take, they need to go back week 2 and find a way to fix the problems, because there are some problems with this team right now.
Mike, I think it's almost impossible for them to fix this problem right away. There's not a lot of 6'5", 330-pound human beings walking the planet with feet like LeBron James. It's just not. Nate Herbig, have you heard of him? Jack Driscoll, have you heard of him? No one has heard of him. No. That was Carson Wentz, right side of his offensive line. So when you look at it, everyone's going to kill Carson Wentz. Everybody's going to kill the Philadelphia Eagles. But the reality is that this game was a result of them not being protected on the front side. Like, who are these guys? And Driscoll went down. He was hurt. So when you look at this game, it wasn't a tale of two halves. It really was two things: turnovers and protection. We know if you lose the turnover battle, you're probably going to lose the game. So this is a huge issue for the Philadelphia Eagles. This could be their season. I don't want to overreact here because it is week 1 and it is possible. But if I am in that locker room, or if I'm the coach there, here's what I'm doing. I am relying on the run game, and I'm going to 3-man route combinations. I'm not going out with 4 and 5 guys out in the pass game. I'm using my running backs and tight ends to stay in and protect, because you have to ask yourself this question: is it worth it? We know this guy's injury history, and if you're asking this guy to drop back 30, 35 times, 40 times a game, we may be looking at a broken Carson Wentz. And I don't think this is good for the organization. I don't think this is good for Carson Wentz.
So 2 things. One is, I want to talk about the other side of the ball for a moment, the other team. With respect, Ron Rivera takes over this summer with respect to the Jets, the most dysfunctional franchise in the NFL, or I guess disrespect to the Jets. You've got scandals, you've got name change, you've got and by the way, he also finds out he has cancer. By the way, you're also up against a team a lot of people think is a Super Bowl contender in week 1. You're down 17-0. You get an IV at halftime, and you come back to score 27 straight and win the football game. So shout out to Ron Rivera and the job he is doing under impossible circumstances. But here's why I can't give the Eagles a pass. They knew who their offensive line was going into the game. And they knew that Washington's strength is their defensive front. And they're up 17-0 with the ball with 1:40 left in the first half. At that point, if you don't turn it over, you're going to win. Just don't crash the car. And Wentz throws a pick to give Washington life right before the half. And then in the second half, you're up 17-7. Washington hasn't had one sustained drive the whole game. You throw another pick to give them a short field. You have another drive that ends with a short field. It's a field goal. All of a sudden, it's a tie game. And now you got to actually play. So I totally agree there was a huge systemic mismatch, defensive line, offensive line. But when you're up 17-0, now you just have to cautiously get home and not give Washington, with Dwayne Haskins, short field after short field. Wentz wasn't able to do that. They weren't able to protect him. Doug Peterson didn't call a game from the perspective of, we won it already, let's just make sure we don't lose it. And now all of a sudden you're 0-1 in a division where you could be the only 1-0 team given what happened with Dallas.
Hey, Brandon, did you think that this game came more down to the scheme and protecting Carson Wentz, or knowing that Ron Rivera got an IV? Was it also a combination of inspired play by Washington? Or do you think is that more of the media? But it feels like Washington came out like, all right, let's go. Or through your eyes, you're like, no, this is a scheme thing, Wildes.
I mean, it's a little bit of everything. And when you look at it, Wildes, you know, I said it earlier on in the show, our games are defined by moments. Our games are defined by a few plays. And when you look at all of this that we're talking about, they still was in a game. Ertz dropped a huge ball in the fourth quarter on 4th and 3. If he catches that ball, they probably win this game. And now we're back in the locker room talking about, okay, guys, we escaped this one, but let's shore up our front line. Let's figure this out. But we're off to a good start. That energy is totally different in the locker room now. So to answer your question, it's a little bit of everything. But each game, every time we watch these games on Sunday or Monday night, it's the same thing. It's going to come down to situational football, and it's going to come down to moments.
All right, well, just like that, Washington has the best record in the NFC East. Probably won't last, but let's marinate on that for a second. Play a little take your pick. All right, so the Ravens beat the Browns yesterday, 38-6. Lamar picking up where he left off. You know who else did? Baker Mayfield also picking up where he left off, struggling hard. Brandon, you know this. We spoke. I watched every second of this game. I needed to see if the Browns of this year were the same as the Browns of last year. And someone, even though it was only week 1, was just a little bit right. Was this game, though, I will ask you, was this game more about what the Ravens did or what the Browns could not do?
I heard out of all the games on Sunday, this was the one game you were tuned into. Even in the fourth quarter when they were down 30-something points.
It's impossible not to play well. You got to put up more than 6 points. I'm sorry.
Listen, yes, when you have Kareem Hunt and you have Nick Chubb, who probably last year had the best year of any running back when you look at an efficiency standpoint, you have Jarvis Landry, you have Odell Beckham Jr., and, you have a head coach that is offensive-minded, you definitely need to put up more than 6 points. But to me, this is more about the Baltimore Ravens. Man, did they look good. This is what a championship team is supposed to do. When you go against a team who doesn't have the continuity, who doesn't have the chemistry, who has a new head coach, you're supposed to put your foot on them and don't let them up. So I expect this out of this team because we're talking about this team being the contender and the champion. So hats off to the Baltimore Ravens. And, what did Lamar Jackson do? He just picked up where he left off. Another 3 touchdowns.
Perfect. He was perfect. Listen, the Browns might end up stinking. We'll see. Baker's season started as poorly as one could start with a pick. But, Mike, to me, this is about the Ravens. This was further confirmation the AFC is a 2-team race. It's the Chiefs and the Ravens, massive gap, and then everybody else. Baltimore looked flawless on both sides of the ball, Mike.
Baltimore looked good, man, and I take my hat off to Lamar Jackson for picking up where he left off last year, like Brandon said, and they actually look better than what they did. They got more weapons. Guys showed up, and the running game is stronger. Lamar looks like he's more physically fit and more in tune with what they're doing, and year 3 is going to be better than year 2, I think, for Lamar. And, for the Cleveland Browns, they had all offseason to get ready for this game, and just what they put on display, it's just not going to suffice. So they're going to have to get better in week 2. It's going to be a dismal year for the Cleveland Browns. But shout out to the Baltimore Ravens for looking stout on both sides of the ball, offensively and defensively. And they look like another championship contender.
Wow. Next week, it's going to be Baker versus Joe Burrow. I feel like even though both teams lost, if I'm Joe Burrow, I'm feeling really good after my debut. And if I'm Baker, I'm not feeling good. I'm not saying we can hit the panic button yet on the Browns, but if they lose, it's Thursday, even worse.
Short
it's a
week.
short week.
It's
I
a
forgot
short
about
week.
that.
Yeah.
Short week.
I'd be very worried.
Let's talk some Cowboys. They were so close last night, but close doesn't do it in the NFL. Did this pass interference call change everything in week 1? That's next. This is First Things First. Back here talking our top story this morning, Saints hosting the Bucs, Breeze hosting Brady. So much rich NFL history with these two careers, but yesterday, a very average day for both. Brady threw 2 picks, including a costly pick 6. He finished, though, with an okay line, 239 passing yards, 3 touchdowns. Equally just okay for Drew Brees, 160 yards passing, 2 touchdowns. But Breeze's Saints get the win. Here is Tom Brady, the losing quarterback, after an up-or-down debut.
Yeah, it was just, it felt like a scrimmage out there. But, obviously it counts. And I think we're all disappointed it didn't go our way. But the only people that can do something about it are the guys in the room. And we got to look at each other in the eye and all work harder, put more urgency on the things we have to do, and, get back to work and do a better job. When you don't play your best and you play good teams, you obviously get beat. And we played far from our best. So 3 turnovers, they didn't have any. We had penalties, they didn't have many. We didn't have great field position, they had great field position. It's just all those things add up, and we got to do a much better job in every area.
Hey, Brandon, there's a lot of talent on this team, up and down both sides of the ball. Is it too soon to be worried about what you saw week 1?
100%. We talked about this on Friday, previewing this game. Coach Mangini said it. This is going to be, change versus continuity. And you saw this show up over and over again. The first play we saw it show up was Mike Evans on the interception. That's on Mike Evans. He put his quarterback in a bad spot. When you're in a slot and you have a seam route, the first thing you're doing is you're reading your triangle. You're reading the corner next to you. You're reading the linebacker, and you're reading the safety. He identified pre-snap that it was too deep. It was cover 2. So when you see that, you're supposed to get the 12 yards, plant that left foot in the ground, and take the middle of the field. Tom is reading his keys. Pre-snap, he knows exactly where he's going with the ball. You have a 6'5", 220-pound wide receiver. He's going to throw it up to him and let him make a play. That's a receiver's dream. That's a quarterback's dream. That's on them. This shows that they don't have that continuity and chemistry yet. The second thing that I saw was the offensive line play. We knew coming in that the right tackle would look like a rookie at times, and he did. But the left tackle was bad. He was horrible, if you really want to be honest. And then the last thing that I saw, I wanted to really pay attention to this defense and see if they were going to help out Tom Brady and Bruce, and they didn't. Now, Coach Bowles called an amazing game. But what did they do? They gave up explosives. Plays past 15 yards. You can't do that. One of the first things that we talk about in Wednesday when we implement the new game plan is eliminate the explosive plays. You can't win ball games if you don't eliminate those. So I think this is going to be an interesting matchup come week 9. This team will be better, and it is too early to say that the team is done and they're not a great team.
Yeah, I wonder if when they play week 9, if these will be the same 2 quarterbacks starting for both these teams, because both these guys kind of looked their age yesterday, which ain't great. So listen, this is why we need Brandon on the show. This is why Brandon's great, because Brandon watched the exact same game I watched, saw all those things. And, Mike Evans, you got to know your triangle, plant your foot at 12 yards. Donovan Smith, the left tackle, they just extended. He played poorly, all these things. I'll tell you what I saw. Brady stunk. That's what I saw. I saw a quarterback who's like, Brady, not that good anymore. Can we show real quick? I got a fun trivia game for the audience. What do all these players have in common? Any guesses out there? Okay, show them.
Oh, let me see.
All of those quarterbacks all of them have won a game more recently than Thomas Edward Patrick Brady III. How about that? Good God, that's Andy Dalton's music. Is he still in the league? I see Tyrod Taylor down there. Wait, is that Robert Griffin III on the graphic? It is. All of those guys have won a game more recently than Tom Brady, and none of them have done what Brady has done. Fitzy, your guy Fitzy. Fitzy got his win against Brady. And so, Sam, basically the whole league. So here's the thing, Wilds. And folks are going to say, Nick, you're going to pile on. You've been predicting the demise of Tom Brady, and now you're going to run your victory lap. So let me pump my own brakes for a moment. Even in the destruction that was yesterday's game, Brady did come close to setting a record. And next week he might do it. A lot of people thought, Wilds, it was an unbreakable NFL record. It is Matt Schaub's record of 4 consecutive games with a pick six. This is a Joe DiMaggio hit streak type of record. Brady is now at 3. So I do believe, Kevin Wildes, that Tom Brady could do what many thought was unthinkable and tie Matt Schaub next week. He did it in week 17 against the Dolphins. He did it in the wild card game against the Titans. And he did it last night against the Saints. And unlike that Mike Evans pick, that ain't on nobody but the quarterback. So that's what I saw. Brandon's watching the game on, like 4D coaches film. But I just saw an old quarterback throw.
No, Brandon, he's got a point.
Yelling at people.
Unfortunately, he has a point. He has a point. The first one you can chalk up to some sort of miscommunication. What are you blaming the second one on? What are you blaming the pick six on? Do you think that is another miscommunication?
It's continuity and chemistry.
Locking in,
this is exactly
blammo.
Yeah, this is exactly what we thought was going to happen. I mean, you don't have a real offseason. You don't have preseason. You need to get these live reps. This is about chemistry between quarterback, wide receivers, play callers. On the other side of the ball, these guys have been together for 10 years.
Yeah.
Listen, this is week
nice this
one.
Morning, Brandon.
Week one. We all know this.
Kind.
It's week. It's. I'm not being kind. It's week one. Let's see what happens come week 5, week 6, and then we can have the discussion and see if we need to blow it up. Let's trade Tom Brady. Let's fire Bruce.
Jenna, it might have been week 1. That Saints secondary was in mid-season form, baby. Saints secondary must have had a
Let's head to Brady's former home, Foxborough. Cam Newton's solid debut outfit. Solid debut performance. I guess Cam just wanted to sneak in, try not to be recognized. Cam thrown for 155 yards, running 15 times for 75 yards and 2 scores. Well, things are different in New England now. Patriots using the ground game to get the week 1 win over the Dolphins. Your guy Superman is back. Here he is, Cam Newton, after the win.
I'm just so blessed to have this opportunity, man, to, number one, be affiliated with an organization. You know, knowing that in itself is a blessing. To get a win, and that's another added plus. But, yet through it all, this has been a strenuous, long process for me. And yet through it all, it's just been gratifying. And I just had such a sense of gratitude, to the New England Patriots and to this team, just to give all that I could possibly give and hell or high water finish today at this particular time with us, going home with the win.
A very appreciative Cam Newton in his post-game press conference. Blessed and thankful for all of it. What'd you make, Brandon, of Cam Newton's debut yesterday at Foxborough?
Josh McDaniels stood out to me. Cam looked good. He was healthy. He was the Cam that we thought we would saw. 2 things I look at, when it comes to a coach and putting his players in position. One, can you dial it up? What does that mean? Can you call the right play at the right time? Josh McDaniels did that. The second thing I look at is, can you be creative? How do you get your players in position? How do you draw them up? Create new plays, and he did that. We saw zone read. They haven't done that in the last 20 years in New England. We saw quarterback draws. They haven't done that in New England, and we saw quarterback sweeps. So I was really excited to see Josh McDaniels step into his own yesterday and take his game to a whole nother level.
Listen, McDaniels absolutely adjusted perfectly on the fly of the offseason, changing the offense entirely. He deserves massive credit. And, Wildes, I'm happy for the good people of New England. People think I root against Boston fans because they're so well known for being obnoxious. But the truth of the matter is that it's about to be a tough spot for fans in Boston because they're going to be all high flying on the Celtics, and then LeBron's going to sweep them out of the finals. So at the very least, what they're going to have, Wildes, is the full Cam Newton performances on a week-in, week-out basis. Before the game with the Dick Tracy outfit, during the game, no turnovers, 4th down conversions, running the football, and the Patriots won this game by a bigger margin than the score indicates because N'Keal Harry fumbled it out the back of the end zone. And so for the 20th straight year, Wilds, your Patriots have the best quarterback in the division again. And for the first straight year, they got a quarterback that is, at least for me, incredibly easy to root for. So I have to admit, Kevin, I was pulling for the Patriots last night, and I thought Cam's debut couldn't have gone any better.
There's
Thank
some
you.
honesty.
Well, we're that makes 2 Patriots fans on the panel, and I welcome you to Patriot Nation. And I know you're very new to winning with the Chiefs, but this is old hat for us. The more things change, the more they stay the same. It's our 11th opening win in the last 12 weeks. It's number 550 for the organization since 1960. We're 94-31, and Cam did great. 2 rushing TDs,
now I hate
0
you guys
interception.
again.
Guess what else?
It was only a matter of
0
time, Nick.
chain snatches. No one's taking Cam Newton's chain, and we talk a lot about jewelry, not using chain. So, they tried to take his chain, but guess what, Dolphins? Try to take ring number 7 from Bill Belichick that's coming in Tampa Bay. It'll be a short, hop in a short car ride to Tampa Bay from Miami. Come try to take Cam Newton's ring when we're in Tampa Bay.
I was rooting for him. Now I'm out.
You're out of your mind.
Jenna, I'm out on him now.
Monday Night Football tonight. It's a good
Patriot
one.
fan. Back in full
You got
force.
Giants, Steelers. You got Titans, Broncos. We'll discuss it all tomorrow. Have a great day. Stay safe, everyone. See ya.